Hey, I'm Shelly, a data scientist by day and a digital creator by night. Aside from my regular content on travel, data, or life, I enjoy breaking down any process. And this was very prominent when me and my husband were planning our destination wedding. Therefore, this series breaks down what I think are the top 3 processes you need to lock down to have a successful event. Welcome to episode 3, Planning a Wedding at Grand Palladium Resort and Spa. Hi everyone, it's Shelly and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am going to be talking about the resort that me and my husband got married at. I initially wanted to give tips about working with resorts, but since I only really know one resort and how their process is, I'm hoping that this video kind of sheds light on what an optimal process would look like. From my friends and family, I've heard that not all resorts in Mexico, or I guess in resorts in general, have a designated wedding coordinator. And so that really brings up a challenge for you when you're trying to plan internationally. So top features of why you would want to go into Grand Palladium to have your wedding. Church was located right inside the resort. This meant that I didn't have to think about transportation for all my guests to get to the ceremony. It's also nice that you can still be around your rooms in the in-between moment, ceremony and your reception. And so having it all in one resort was very beneficial. The second one was that it was a gated resort. From all of the resorts that we've been to in Mexico, we knew that the Costa, Mujeres area within Cancun was one the best for beaches. I know that a lot of hotel district, typically you are right beside another resort and it's very crowded. So it was really nice that, all the resorts in Costa Mujeres, they have their own gated area. Also increases the safety of the resort. The other top feature was multiple areas for pools, lots of different restaurants that you can go to, and just different spots for also photo moments, especially when you're doing your entourage photo shoot or your couples photo shoot. It was really nice to have, some at the church, some in the shopping area, some at the beach. And then also our reception area was a restaurant that was overlooking the beach. So we didn't have to worry about people getting too hot, especially because we had our wedding in July. So having those different spots, but then also just having a big enough resort for everybody didn't want to do any excursions, then they would still be able to do some stuff within the resort and still have fun. The main perk of having your wedding at Grand Palladium is that they actually have a designated wedding coordinator team. And what that means is that you get paired with one wedding coordinator, so you can ask all the questions. But during the day of, I realized that, they have a designated team for every wedding that's happening during that day. So it's not just that wedding coordinator, but there's the bartenders, some admin or like the trolley service, people that are doing the catering or the decorations. This just made it so much easier because all of my needs were satisfied through coordinating with one person, but then she had contact with all the different vendors that I needed for the event. Having this team, you have the ability to plan events before the wedding, let's say your ceremony rehearsal or entourage dinner, even some bachelorette gatherings if you are interested in doing that as well. Any coordinators for the venues of the day, so your ceremony, but also your reception. Decorations, which includes your flowers or your furniture, the DJ, music, lighting, food. So you can also do his and her beverages, the catering, the cake if you're not fussy on how your cake looked like. You can also do photo and video, and then transportation throughout the wedding. In my case, the only vendor that I ended up not opting in for in this package was the photography and the videography. I don't know about you, but if you've ever had a family photo shoot or just opted into the photo and video at any resort in general, they definitely have a distinct style, very contrasty, lots of colors, and that definitely wasn't the style that we wanted for our photography and our video. And so we ended up doing a different vendor external from the resort. They do have a fee for bringing external vendors, but for me, photography and video is very important to me, so we definitely opted in for doing that. So that's the main gist. You know that the Grand Palladium has their own designated team, which means that they have their own designated packages that you can opt in for. So I'll just be scrolling down on this list that they gave me, which is their brochure from the 2020 year, because that's when you were starting to plan our wedding. So I'm not too sure if it has changed by any means, but it lists us all here about the different types of wedding amenities, wedding coordinator, you have a private check-in, you are able to do any room upgrades, but this is subject to availability during that day. You can choose your venue, the sound system. You have a toast immediately after the ceremonies. You have the ability to do a dinner reservation for your entourage dinner, which was what we opted in for when we did our ceremony rehearsal. Turn down service, late checkout, breakfast in bed after the wedding, and free access to the hydrotherapy area, wedding gift, and a honeymoon package, which that all included was the breakfast in bed the day after the wedding. And so you go through all these different packages. There are specific ones for smaller guest sizes. For us, we like to party, so just scrolling all the way down in the options that they had the Party Lovers Deluxe version, which then included the different decorations. We had a private event, so we had the catering, an open bar. We also had some centerpieces, folding chairs, so a lot of the decorations and some of the furniture were already within this package. And then we also had the DJ that was playing throughout the whole event. And so we definitely opted in for the largest package. We had a very large guest list and we wanted to definitely party. And so what I did was really read between those lines of okay, well then what was not included. And so if you scroll down later down in the package, you can see that there's different upgrades that you can do. And so one is the Party Lovers Deluxe only went up to 50 guests. And so any guest that's beyond that package, you had to then pay per head. And then there was the different food and drink stations. This is not entirely included from the get-go, especially depending on which package that you get. But they do have some different options that you can do for that. Tacos, mojitos, s'more station. Another big one, especially if you have a big entourage, but also what I wanted to do was have my own custom bouquet. And then all of the bridesmaids had their bouquets. The groomsmen had the boutonnieres. Chris also had a boutonniere, but it was, I probably hit that. But yeah, he had a boutonniere that was with a flower. I also wanted to have some corsages for the parents and then also our godparents. So there's a lot of different florals that I wanted to incorporate, and they do have the lower down package that's included, but if you wanted to upgrade or have anything custom that is not within the options that you're able to get, then that could be a uplift in some of the options that you want to do. And then if there's anything that was beyond the decorations that you think that you want for your wedding, then those are also something as well. The DJ also had some other options like lighted floors or hanging down twinkle lights called cold fireworks, which was really nice. We had it fire up when it was our first dance. That was a fluke. It was supposed to be when we entered in, but they forgot about it. So that's something that I want to talk about later in this video as well. So anyways, the gist of this is that they do have packages that you can opt in for. that is limited to a certain list, and then if you want anything additional beyond that, then it's an additional cost. But it is all coordinated with the wedding coordinator, so she'll be able to put it all in your invoice, and you don't have to pay up until, you know, all of those details are final. And I actually did some of the payments right after the wedding as well. So you can definitely be adding on to your packages, but just be mindful that you are staying within your budget. The second step in the process was that we were able to go down to the resort and meet up with our wedding coordinator in person. The perk with this is that you still have to purchase your flights to get to Mexico, but they do give you a discounted accommodation rate for 2 nights. And this essentially gets you to the point of, you know, arriving the first day, but then having 1 full day with your designated wedding coordinator. And you can do different things, like the list that we had was, we reviewed some of the rooms that we wanted to potentially upgrade to. We reviewed the additional areas that we could opt into. Something like the bridal suite was one that she showed us because we were wondering if we had a place to get ready in the day of. Definitely didn't opt into that, but it's nice to see it in person if you wanted to opt in for those. We also reviewed the venues, so going to where the ceremony was going to be and where the reception was going to be. And then we also met with some vendors during that day. So we met the decorations coordinator. She was also the one that did the flower arrangements. And we also met with the DJ. And then I also did a hair trial. The one thing that I was very concerned about was if my hair was going to stay up in the heat. And so trying to see if the vendor at the resort was going to be able to do that for me. I didn't end up opting in for that, but it was nice to do it anyway. The one caveat with getting your hair done by the vendors at the resort is that they don't come to your room. So you have to go to the hair salon in order for you to get your hair done and then go back to your room, which I felt was going to be a little bit of a pickle during the day of, so didn't end up opting into that. But in this case, I found it really useful, especially when you're coordinating with someone internationally during emails, or even we had some Zoom calls here and there. It's nice to put a face to a person, having that one-on-one relationship, and then also being able to envision what your wedding day is going to look like in the venues of your choice. So now you're into like the 4 months prior to your wedding. So this was really just staying on track with your wedding coordinator, making sure that if there was any follow-ups that she was getting back to you. And so I often had like a really long list of different things that I was having questions on prior to the wedding up until the day of. And then we also had different ad hoc meetings just to make sure that she was on track with all of those. But I do recommend, you know, listing it all out in an email just so that there is that history of when you requested it, and then you can follow up on it within those wedding meetings, just because then it's, you know, it's on record, it's written and all that stuff. So definitely be on track with all of those. But it was smooth sailing, and we were really happy in the end. Now that brings us to the week of. The first day in, we had our on-site meeting with our wedding coordinator again in the morning. This was just to figure out any last minute things, pay off any remaining balances that we needed to do before the wedding. And then in that evening, that same day, we did our ceremony rehearsal and our entourage dinner. After that, it was a Tuesday, so this was the day that me and my husband didn't want to see each other. We just did like a bachelorette kind of day. We went to the spa, checked into the bachelorette room, and we had like a mini bachelorette party. And then this brings you to your wedding day, which all of the communication was done on WhatsApp. So something like when we were figuring out when the trolleys were going to come to us and bring us to the ceremony venue. Our videographers and photographers were also on WhatsApp too, so just a lot of communication there. And I think they use this because, you know, international numbers and all that stuff, so that was what we were dealing with. It was essentially smooth sailing. All I had to do was go into the route of doing the ceremony, doing our photo session, doing our reception, and then everything was all set in stone. So all of the planning really did make sense in the beginning, but then that pretty much closes off all of the wedding party stuff and all of the planning and event things with your wedding coordinator. Like, I have little bad things or like critiques to say about working with the Grand Palladium Resort and Spa, because they made it so easy for me to, one, plan with them up until the wedding date. They had the different checkpoints with us, in communication with me throughout the whole time once we got paired up with our coordinator. And there was only other little things that I was like, oh, I wish I did that after. And so these are the things that I missed in making sure that it was on the list of things to do. So there's only 3 things. The first one was organizing family dinners. So in our package, we only had that one entourage dinner that we were able to map out, especially for 40 guests. For them to designate one area for that large of a party was already, you know, that is a big step. It was like, even there was different bartenders or servers that were specific to our party. And so I definitely understood that, you know, because that was part of the package, that was well equipped. But because we had 50 plus guest list, we definitely had like different families from Chris's side, but also my side. And so there was like a tug and pull between, you know, who we were able to have dinners with outside of the days leading up to the wedding, but also at the tail end of, like, you know, your families do definitely want to have time with you. And so making sure that you had a big enough reservation for those family dinners was something that we didn't think of prior to the wedding. And the thing about Mexico resorts, in my experience thus far, is that you definitely only have the opportunity to reserve those dinners once you get to the resort. And it's definitely crucial for you to book those dinners after you check in, before you even like go to your room, because you're definitely going to forget, and then you're just gonna have this situation where the dinner reservations that you're able to get are only for, you know, smaller parties, like I'd say like up to 6 people, depending on how big the tables are at those restaurants. If that is an issue that you think that you might have, I would definitely ask your wedding coordinator if it is ever possible to a dinner for this side of the family and this side of the family. Make sure that you have that time, and being able to understand which restaurants are able for that type of family size. So that's the first one. The second one was the only vendor out of the whole package that we had the most difficult time with was the DJ. And even if it was a vendor that my wedding coordinator was thinking of, we both were trying to keep in contact with the DJ vendor. There wouldn't be a lot of replies to it. And then, like I said in the beginning, there was that one additional option that we opted in for, which was the cold fireworks. We had missed that on our invoice and ended up having to try and get it for us the day of, because they missed setting it up in the very get-go. And so it was really hard to try and manage that. So I'd definitely be on top of the vendors, not just the DJ in this case, but anybody that you are having those troubles with. Maybe spend some time on making sure that they know exactly what you want, and keep iterating it in your emails, because the email chain could just get really long of you just trying to navigate with that coordinator, and then your initial message might get missed. So just be cognizant of any vendors that you're having that problem with. And then the third piece was actually not on the wedding day, but it was when we did that in-person meeting 5 months prior to the wedding. Was our taxi arrangement was very interesting. So our wedding coordinator got us in contact with a taxi service for how we were going to be able to get from the resort to the airport. They didn't take payment before coming, and so we ended up having to go to, they brought us to a Mexico bank to get our payment out because we didn't have enough money to pay them. And then after that, we got a message on WhatsApp that we didn't pay, which we definitely did for it. So it was, I don't know what happened with that vendor, but definitely the whole gist of this is just make sure that you have a clear shuttle service for getting to the resort and back to the airport. Maybe have a vendor that you already paid for that upfront, and all you have to show them is the receipt once you get there. Recommend BD Travel or just any package that you get from WestJet or Air Canada, something that's more reputable instead of a taxi service. So those are the 3 things that I've listed down that were kind of a headache or just a difficulty, but hopefully that helps you out in trying to figure out if this is the resort for you. In this, I know that from the other videos, I do give kind of a takeaway item. And so I'm going to try and consolidate a lot of the communication templates that me and the wedding coordinator had, and just making sure that you have, the list of different things that you could end up opting in for. Some things that I went through that could be requests that you want to opt into as well. So I'll leave that in the description below. But other than that, all in all, I really loved having the wedding at the Grand Palladium Resort and Spa, and I would definitely recommend it. And we definitely will visit once we have a 10-year anniversary or something like that. But yeah, just a lot of coordination. As long as you're on top of it, they'll be on top of it as well. Yeah, no complaints. With that, if you have any other questions beyond all of the details that I just hashed out, leave it in the comment section below and I'll be sure to answer it as soon as I can. That ends off the wedding series, and I hope that anybody has been following this series as a Canadian trying to get married in Mexico, and also as a Catholic as well. I hope this helps out with some of the wedding planning, and if you're also a party person like me and my husband, then you'll definitely enjoy all of this at the very end of it, because you get to have a 7-week celebration instead of a 1-day celebration for your wedding. So I hope you guys enjoyed this series, and wishing you all the best for any of your wedding planning in the future. So anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.